tried something a little different this time. I'm Jimmy Cavanaugh, joined from left to right, at least on my screen, by Drew Lamajani, Tony Adrania, and Will Gabriel Chuckerman.
You
Glad
guys
to
figured out
have,
my middle name.
yeah, because it's on your Google Plus account. Anyway, we're going to do a live on-camera edition of the starting five. Anybody who is watching can feel free to enter in the group chat. You can submit things. But for the time being, guys, we're just going to start this thing off the way we do the written versions, which is to say I'm going to ask a question, you guys all chime in, and we'll try and give a well-rounded take what's going on with this IU basketball matchup this weekend. Sound good?
Let's
Sounds
do
good
it.
to me.
Let's do it.
I'll take that as a yes. Okay, cool. I guess first question leading things off. Team is in the Sweet 16 for the second time in as many years. Before this, it had taken them a decade to get back to the Sweet 16 from where we had seen them previously. How big is this for the program? Before we get to the actual game this weekend against Syracuse, just being back in the Sweet 16 for an IU program that had such a long dry spell. Drew, we'll start with you.
I think it's huge. I mean, Indiana has gone through so much transition from ever since really Bob Knight left the program. You haven't really had a steady guy. And then Kelvin Sampson came along, and everyone knows the story about that. So I think, last year people were saying, like, oh, after we beat, like, Ohio State at home, people were like, oh, we're back. But now it's like these freshmen coming in and the freshmen that are here now, they're just accustomed to great Indiana basketball. So as I wrote in my piece, like, Jimmy, yourself, and Tony, you guys know, like, my first year here, we had 10 wins. So it's like the program is back itself, and it feels good because it feels right. It's where it should be.
Tony, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of second what Drew said. I think it's huge for what the program was when I came here as a freshman. My senior year of high school, IU was 6-25, as everybody knows. My freshman and sophomore year, they weren't much better. Won just a couple Big Ten games. And then the fact that last year they really kind of turned everything around and made the Sweet 16. And then this year they're a number one seed. They're in the Sweet 16 again. First time they've made back-to-back Sweet 16 since, I think, 93, 94. So, I mean, it's been a while. I mean, that was when we were 2, 3, 4 years old. So it's very special for the program. It's putting Indiana basketball back on the map, back where it used to be, back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. So I think it makes sense, and all is right in the world when IU basketball is on top, and that's where they are right now.
Well,
and I was going to say, I feel a little bit spoiled, and I'm not going to apologize, but this Sweet 16, this is just another year for me being at my sophomore year. But I understand what you guys are saying. My brother went through 4 of the really, really down years here at Indiana, so I definitely know where this program has come. And I'd like to expect that this Sweet 16 now is kind of like, okay, Indiana's made it to the Sweet 16, but there's still more to accomplish this season. Now it's the program's at a top level, but now Elite Eight, Final Fours, national championships is what the fan base expects from this point on.
yeah, and I'm just ready to say, stepping in, looking at it the way they got there against VCU, barely scraping out a win against them last year, and then doing the same thing against Temple. It's not like they've floated easily in the past 2 Sweet 16s. They've had work to do, and they've gotten that work done. Last year against Kentucky, they bow out. It's a 102-90 final against the eventual national champions. IU acquitted themselves well. Let's take a look at the matchup that they have with Syracuse. What do they need to do to knock off the Syracuse team?
I think it starts 100% with getting offensive and defensive rebounds, starting fast, and Indiana basketball is at its best when they're running. They might be the best running transition team in the country. So I think what you saw against Temple was never got into a rhythm, didn't get as many rebounds as anybody would have liked, and it slowed the game down. And that's when Temple was able to take advantage of that, and Wyatt was pretty much, just putting on a show for Temple. But I think if Indiana can rebound, get in transition, score buckets in the paint, get in transition, I think that's when Indiana basketball is at its best.
I think everything Drew said there is obviously correct, and that Indiana is at its best when they play at a fast pace and they're really clicking offensively. But what Syracuse is so good at is slowing teams down a little bit with their 2-3 zone and making them set up in a half court against a defense they're not all familiar with. However, I actually tweeted this from my accountant this afternoon that I think Indiana has the perfect pieces to beat this Syracuse 2-3 zone. I mean, they've got Christian Watford, who can play in the high post just as good as anybody in the country. He can spot up from the free throw line. He can attack the basket. So if you can get the ball into the middle of the zone to Christian Watford, there's a lot of options. Because outside of that, then you've got Cody Zeller on the block playing a high-low game with Watford. You've got Holes on one wing, possibly Sheehy or even Yogi, who's been proving that he can hit a shot a little bit better on another wing. Then you've got a shooter who's flashing the baseline. You've got somebody running the baseline against that 2-3 zone. So I think Indiana has a lot of pieces that can really tear apart this 2-3 zone. I think what it's really going to come down to is they've got to start from the inside and work their way out. If they can get a couple buckets on the inside against that zone, and then Jordan Holes has a shot clicking, or he's not the only one who can make three-pointers, or if Christian Watford can kick it in and then get back out to a wing and hit a three-pointer, and has a good shot at tearing apart this Syracuse 2-3 zone and winning semi-comfortably.
I think ball movement is going to be just as big as what you guys are talking about, because there's no way Indiana is going to be able to just stay stagnant on offense and just expect that Syracuse is going to break out of a zone or have a defensive lapse here and there. They've got some real good athletes on that Syracuse team, guys 6'6", 6'4", 6'8" across the board, and they just got to keep the ball moving inside and out like Tony was talking about. And if they can do that, Tony was right, or is right still. Jordan Holes and Christian Watford are really going to need to hit their three balls, and they're really going to need to get that going early so that Cody Zeller can then work from the high post, work from down low, and start kicking it out to them. So I think ball movement's going to be really big for this team. And we've seen with their half-court offense, they struggle to kind of get plays going, get guys involved. They just sometimes go ISO with Watford or Zeller. They're going to really need to pass the ball, 4 or 5 guys touching it. I know that's a tall task to try and do, but this zone's tough.
Yeah, and guys, at risk at repeating a lot of the things you said, I want to come out and say that, as someone who's been on record as a Syracuse card-carrying hater for the last 3 years at least, I mean, this is a Syracuse team that last year did make the Elite Eight, and they lost to an Ohio State team that did make obviously made the Final Four because they beat Syracuse at the Elite Eight. Before that, Syracuse had not made it that far since the 2003 season with Carmelo Anthony giving Jim Boeheim his first and to this point only national championship. It's not been a team that's been built for high-caliber success. And last year's Syracuse team, I thought, had more talent than this one did. I don't like this team as much. I think that zone has had its issues. They've been outstanding defensively so far this tournament. They killed Montana. Montana? What's the point of taking anything from that game? And then they beat a mediocre California team by 6 points. I don't think they've seen anyone to the caliber of Indiana yet. And I guess that leads into the next question. If we look at the rest of this region, this East Regional that IU is in, would it bode better for IU to look ahead and face Miami, who may or may not have Reggie Johnson out in D.C. for this trip, or to face Marquette, Tom Crean's former team, maybe some karmic payback there for the Golden Eagles?
My sister goes to Marquette, and I was talking to my dad about this. If they both advance, who would he root for? And honestly, ever since mid-season and Big Ten play has kind of formed, I've been dying to see Indiana and Miami face off. I think it's a good matchup for Indiana. Like you said, I forget I'm stumping on his name, but he might not be there. That sounds stupid on tape. I'm sorry. It's not very professional of me, but
the big fat guy, the fat guy.
Yeah, the big guy. But no, I really love the Miami matchup, just because Miami to me I think is not as well equipped, I'll say, as Indiana, but you can't not look at the Marquette side and the whole it's going back to his former team, yada yada. And let's not forget, Marquette shouldn't even have been in the past the first round. I remember saying, all right, see you, Marquette, and then I was like, the only way they're going to win this is if they make 2 threes and then somehow get a steal, and that's exactly what happened. So let's not forget. But hey, I mean, getting hot at the right time. I think either way, it'll be a good matchup.
Yeah, I think that it bodes well or better for IU to actually play Miami at this point. Just with Reggie Johnson being out, I think Indiana plays a similar pace to Miami, and I think Indiana's far better at that pace than Miami is. I think Miami's been overrated. I think they caught Duke at a low time, and that's kind of when they exploded on the scene, right as Ryan Kelly was going out with injury for Duke, and just they'd lost a game or two in a row, and so Miami comes in, stomps them by 27. But then Duke did come back and beat Miami with Kelly. So I think that Miami's a little overrated. I think Marquette is another team, though, that Indiana can beat. I think Indiana got a pretty nice draw in the NCAA tournament. They survived and advanced against Temple. They've got a tough Syracuse team that was number 1 in the nation. And I think if they can get past Syracuse, I do think that they're Final Four bound because I don't see anybody on Miami, I don't see Miami or Marquette stopping IU just because of the way they play the game and just the phenomenal athletes and basketball players that IU has right now. I think talent wins out for the most part. I know that the NCAA tournament, it's a little bit different because it's just one game. But I just don't see Marquette or Miami being able to beat Indiana.
Yeah, it seems like I agree with both of you guys. I think Syracuse right now is the toughest matchup of the 3 teams remaining that Indiana could face. Like Drew was saying, Marquette really shouldn't even be here, but the NCAA tournament's made for those types of moments for teams to just capitalize. And Vanderblue for Marquette, their point guard, is having a fantastic tournament, but I don't know who I'd rather face because without Reggie Johnson, Miami doesn't have that interior post defender. He really doesn't do too much on offense, but he would be able to stop Zeller down low. But this Marquette team, I think they're also a little bit overrated too. Tony, you were talking about Miami being a little bit overrated. Marquette does not shoot well from 3. They don't really shoot well in general. So I think both teams are beatable. Let's just see if Indiana can get past Syracuse first.
I'm totally on that board because I don't want to look past Syracuse as much as I've made fun of them in recent months. Because let's be real, guys, zone is for cowards. Bomani Jones likes to say it. I think a lot of people like to say it, and I won't take any shame in that because even though I have a junior recreational league basketball team that occasionally busts out the zone, I'm not proud of it. I'll also say on record that I probably have a different feel on this than a lot of you guys do because there's a buddy in my house who simulated this entire tournament before the draw even happened, and it had IU losing out in the Sweet 16 to Marquette. So take that for what you will. Vanderblue went off for 36 points in that game. I don't know how likely that is. He's had a great tournament. I like both matchups, like you guys said, better than Syracuse. But I'm not ready to count my chickens yet. I'm going to go like Jordan Holes. Take it one game at a time.
Yeah, I agree.
Jimmy, I wanted to ask where you pick up that Syracuse hater card.
I've given them out, dude. I've got plenty. I'll make it rain on Jordan or Kirkwood. I don't even care. I'll give them out to anyone who wants one. I'm sure that at this point there will be plenty of people interested. I've got one more question for you guys, and it goes back to this NCAA tournament. If Syracuse ends up beating Indiana in the next round, let's not talk about it. Let's just say hypothetically, if IU goes down in the Sweet 16, second consecutive year, can this season be a success?
It depends on who you ask, I think. I think every fan out there, every student, every alumni, they would say championship or bust. And I think that's the mentality of the team. But in the big picture, does this team have the talent to win a national title? Absolutely. But then again, it's the NCAA tournament. There have been crazy things that happen on any team can win on any given day. For me, I think it would be a disappointment mostly because A, I'm a senior. B, I think you got to assume that Victor Oladipo and Cody Zeller are going to be gone next year. You have obviously like Noah Vonleh coming in and stuff like that, but I don't think this team is going to be as good next year as it is right now. And I think this is their time to win. So if not now, then it kind of have to, say to yourself, like, well, darn, like Cody Zeller's gone, Big Vic's gone. Like now you got to kind of almost start over. It's a whole new team without Zeller and Oladipo. So there's going to be a learning curve. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Wofford and Old. I'm just thinking purely NBA, but yeah.
And don't forget about the Tipton Tornado, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
Derek Elson.
This is a great opportunity to pour it out for Bobby Capobianco, who never got to finish his time here.
Hey, that game that he played for Valpo. Oh my gosh. Did he just I don't know, man. There's something about him that just I don't like.
It was the first time I'd ever seen him on TV, and I thought he was 35 years old.
Yeah, he grew a little facial hair. He looked a lot different from when I saw him in Elston, around 30 girls freshman year at their library. I don't know what they were talking about, but he looked a little different. But yeah, I think overall, I think it's going to be championship or bust.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it does kind of look at the way depend on the way you look at it. But I mean, let's be honest. Every season for every team is championship or bust. I mean, I'm
technically speaking, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying I'm a big Butler fan, and it was exciting when they made the national championship. But I didn't walk away from the season I feel good. I was happy they made the national championship. I thought it was cool, but I still wasn't fully fulfilled in my hopes for a national championship for Butler. But at the same time, I think it's really big this year that IU is probably going to be championship or bust in most people's eyes, just because of what Drew was talking about. Cody's probably gone. Vic's probably gone. Watford, Holes, Elson, all those guys. I mean, it's like you said, it's going to be a brand new basketball team. And last year, you kind of felt all right when IU lost Kentucky to the eventual national champions. You had a feeling that everybody or almost everybody was coming back. I know Watford and Zeller were a little iffy, but I mean, you just kind of felt okay about it because you knew next year you're going to be better, and you put up a good fight against Kentucky. But this year, I mean, IU's the hunted. They're not the hunter. And if they go down, it's most likely going to be an upset that they go down unless it's a national championship or Final Four or something. But if they lose in the Sweet 16, I definitely think it's a bust of a season just because of the expectations coming into it.
Yeah, Drew, Drew and Tony, I completely agree with what you guys were saying. There's really nothing more that I can add that would be of any merit. But Tony was right. Last year it was kind of all right that they lost to Kentucky. People were very happy with the storybook run that they were on. The Christian Watford shot was still in the forefront of everybody's mind. But this year they have that talent. They have every single piece that you would want a national champion to have. They have 1 through 5, one of the best starting lineups in the country. You have a sixth-man Will Sheehy that I think any coach in the country would kill to have on his team.
We got named national six-man of the year. I don't know about national, but just six-man.
Big Ten six-man of the year, I think. And then you also have guys like Remy Abel coming off bench, Jeremy Hollowell. You have all the pieces that should win a national championship, and all those pieces aren't going to be back in one way, shape, or another. Just not everyone's going to be back, and I think this is the best opportunity. I don't know in the next 5 years if it's the best opportunity, but it's been the best opportunity they've had in 10 years. So I think it's this year, or it's a real big disappointment in my opinion.
I'll conclude this by relaying a story from last year at the Sweet 16. The general consensus, guys, was that Indiana team fulfilled every bit of potential that they had, and I left that game at 2 o'clock in the morning, having finished my story, saying if these guys next year play like these guys this year, they're going to win a national championship. And here we are talking about that as being a possibility, and I'm right on board with you guys. There's no way that they can follow up with last year's season, which was literally, in every sense of the word, fulfilled potential in every way they could have done, and say that anything less than that national title that they made it clear was their goal could be considered a success.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, just to add what you guys said about last year's success, I remember tweeting. I mean, I was abroad. I was over in Spain, rough life. But I remember tweeting before the Kentucky game because we actually went to go see it, and I did not see the VCU game because travels and whatnot. But I remember tweeting no matter what the outcome of this game is, Indiana basketball far exceeded expectations. I remember talking with friends before the season started and saying, if we go pretty far in the NIT, I think it'll be like a good season.
Mm-hmm.
And then we started piling up Big Ten wins, mostly at home against Ohio State, and then obviously that big Kentucky win. So I think, like you guys said, like that was okay. We were all okay with the run ending there, but this team is far more mature. They're better, they're deeper. So just to reiterate, championship or bust. Knock on wood.
Win it, guys. Just win it. Just win. That's all we're gonna say.
Just win,
I guess
baby.
before we conclude, let's just give some predictions. So, Will, what's your prediction?
God. I don't even want to give predictions because my last 4 or 5 on record have been the complete opposite of what happened.
Syracuse 69, Indiana 62.
Syracuse is going to win 150. Indiana's going to have 2 points. So that's my prediction.
Seems legit.
Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully.
I think you might be.
The 150 you don't see that happening?
I don't know. I was gonna say shutout, but
It was looking that way in the James Madison game that they might be able to get the shutout.
yeah, I was so mad when they scored.
I was mad when somebody else besides Yogi scored for IU, actually.
He was on fire. God, is he gonna be good next year? Good Lord.
But in all seriousness, I don't think you guys want me giving a prediction in Indiana's favor because it just really hasn't gone right in the past few times. So
Will
I'll
respectfully abstains.
Yes. Count me out for this one.
There we go. Drew, what do you think?
I'm gonna go 68-59 IU.
Jimmy?
I'm going to say 69-60 Indiana.
I'll say 72-64 IU.
Sounds good.
And I said 150-2 Syracuse, right?
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Okay,
So
we'll
I'm on record as saying that.
We need Sean Nash up in here to give us his Nostradamus prediction.
See,
It'll be on the site. Don't you worry.
Sean has been very, very accurate with some of the things.
Yeah, he has.
Like, very accurate, within
It's
a
a
couple
little
points
scary.
of each team.
He's got that crystal ball, man.
He's got it. He's got that Nostradamus swag. But no, in all seriousness, guys, we thank you for watching the starting 5 of the Sweet 16 edition. This is maybe something that we can become a staple of the rest of this year and maybe years continuing. Congrats to these 2 fellas down here. They're the new IUSportCom managing editors, so they're gonna have their say in what's going on as me and Drew ship out and head on to bigger and probably not better places in Indiana. But thanks guys for watching. We've had a blast with it. Hopefully, maybe we'll be back next week doing a Final Four edition. You never know. But for Drew Lamontagna, Jimmy Cavanaugh, Will Chuckman, I'm Tony Adrania, and thanks for watching.